So, all this started when my husband asked me why am I treating the pharmacist at the pharmacy counter so well? And I just said, take care of the ones that take care of you. Welcome to another episode of Stories About Life. Essentially, I tell stories here, no advice or tips. Although today is a little bit of some advice because I decided, or actually more like inspired by my husband as we had this conversation, to share some advice that my father gave me, more like lessons that I had learned from him growing up, that I practice today and is why I function the way I function. So that whole pharmacy story was what sparked everything. Take care of the ones that are taking care of you. I summarize it that way myself, but it's not exactly how my dad said it. It's just something that I noticed he would encourage us to do. Whether it is our own family, loved ones, or the people who are at customer service or professionals who are providing us services, or even the cashier at the retail counter. So and sometimes, people just want to be treated like humans. So, yeah, I'm just pausing a little bit because suddenly reflecting on all the times that he showed this. And I guess I wanted to start with loved ones because as I was saying that, I recall he's the one who would always remind us to make a birthday card, or at least remind me. I don't know why I was the dedicated birthday card maker as being the youngest daughter, or maybe because of the age gap, I was the only one free enough at that age to sit down and make a birthday card. But I guess he also recognized my love for the creatives and arts. Not that I'm very artistic or very good at it, but those moments did help me. I do take those habits into up to today. And yeah, I remember whenever it's mom's birthday, he will remind us, hey, mom's birthday is coming up. Do you want to make a card? And he would arrange for flowers to be delivered. And even on Mother's Day as well, he would remind us to do so. And it's really sweet. So, like, all the cards I made were for them. So naturally, since he prompted us to make it for mom, I would make it for him as well. And they kept all of them. They're all in the shelves in the cabinet. And it's quite heartwarming to see all those years of handmade cards being saved up. Another instance I could think of is just he ran his own business, so at least when I was born, he was already running his own business. So as I can recall, he would try his best to be very human about his employees. He always gathers, and he has sort of this system to record down personal details about people. So even with the employees, so he will actually ask, like, who do you live with? What does your mother do? What does your father do for work? How old are they? Even if they're not working, how are they doing, like health-wise? And he'll ask how many siblings do you grow up with. And if you're married, he'll ask about your children, what they're doing, how old are they. And all this he will actually take note of in his own address book. And I remember he would actually sit down after evening dinner. After he has a little chat with us, he will pick someone from his contact book and just give them a call. And from there, I suppose he built a lot of long-lasting friendships and relationships. For me, how I take it into every day when we're just going about our errands is to really see each service person as a human with their own stories, their own struggles, their own peoples around them. But I always believe that we should try and treat each other with some form of kindness, and which actually reminds me, because we're on that topic of take care of the ones that take care of us, they don't have to choose to take care of us or show up at least professionally to us. They could do it in a terrible way. But for me, how I see it, it's like, okay, so I show my appreciation for you showing up by just being human. I wouldn't say I'm always 100% super friendly or anything. It's up to this point, it's become a bit of a habit. So, and I feel it more so in Malacca, where there's a bit more time. People aren't always so stressed, and most people just want to be listened to. And so, yeah, I guess I would reciprocate if the person is being very personable, especially in customer service. The pharmacy, our local pharmacy, is very friendly for some reason. I remember a pharmacist, the pharmacy assistant, like a retail assistant. I walk in one time alone, and then she goes, "Hey, where's your husband today?" So because then I'm like, "Oh, he's working." So then she's like, "Oh, because you usually come in together with him," and because of that, then I make the effort to remember her name and to particularly greet her and ask how she. Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like lessons that I've learned from my dad, which actually brings me to something more specific, because my dad ran his own business, so we do sometimes talk about business principles over our after dinner chats. On that note, he said to always pay your suppliers first. And I guess that's where my habit of paying people back as soon as I can came from. And he believes, and my brother who has taken over the business, we believe to, even if you can't pay back immediately, at least make it a predictable date, make it a promise, and fulfill that promise. This is another principle that I learned from other entrepreneur courses, because these are little promises and little promises build trust. So if I could think of an example, it would be a personal example. We were really struggling when we moved homes. We actually moved to our first house, which is where I am right now. We really wanted it to be very nature-like, have a lot of plants, but we had no green thumbs. We had terrible at it. So I ended up tracking down a landscaper who's familiar with this area and the houses here. And he came, and I guess it's an example of taking care of the ones who take care of you. So I really stood there watching his work and asking him about, complimenting him at first for knowing what to do, asking him what plants these are, and I guess it came to asking about his background, and he shared about how he came to know more about the plants. He actually went to Taiwan to study. And from there, he says, like, every time he comes back, he will actually say, "Oh, I saw this wooden thing." Like, sometimes we have those wood decors. So he'll say, "Oh, I saw this wooden decor, and I remembered your husband likes all these wooden pieces." Okay, so he's very fascinated by them. So I brought it here today for you, and I'm just gonna put it in for you because I know you like it, and it's so thoughtful, and I really appreciate that kind of relationship. It just feels like the world goes around, and not only because I talk to him, but right after he leaves, I'm always making sure, like, please send me how much I owe you, and I pay him almost immediately every single time. Sometimes he takes a while even to give his invoice or his breakdown. At the start it was like that, but I kept asking, like, I need to pay you for your work. It's only fair. You do this professionally. You had to take your time out to do it. And so I must pay you back as soon as I can. And and I feel it's been quite easy to work with him and got a great rapport going. And I love that. Of course, we have to sometimes take note of boundaries and whatnot, but I feel like that's one example of relationship, of taking care of one another. Trying to think of a more personal example, as in where it's about loved ones or families. Well, I guess the one about my parents, and just simple, and sometimes it doesn't really always have to be about money, but so like the little things about the handmade cards and just treating them like humans, being polite and being human really has been helpful so far. If any of you out there who know me and have observed me want to share with me something I may have forgotten, please feel free to either contact me directly if you know me personally, or drop a comment down there wherever you're listening in from. Since we were touching on the topic of money, I was thinking about this other little lesson my dad gave me, which was always have a cooling down period before you buy anything that you saw on an advertisement or something you thought you really, really want. This would have been more a personal story. I remember watching TV with my dad as we were a kid, and every time an ad would come on, like I can especially remember Barbie dolls, which is a bit ironic because my mom would always try and get me a Barbie doll, but my dad's previous advice kind of makes me a bit like not excited about Barbie dolls. But so we'll see an ad about a Barbie doll, and then he goes like, you see this ad is they just make it shiny one. They have a lot of production that goes into it. Once you get it, it doesn't necessarily look like the ad. In any case, if after you watch it, have a cooling down period, sleep over it first, then only if you still really want it after 3 days, then of course check your finances and go out and get it. I guess that kind of honed how I spend on things, though I know those who have known me recently, I do kind of splurge a bit more on things that make me happy, like going to concerts and buying things related to BTS. But I still do, in spite of that, I still did practice that whole cooling down period thing. An example would also be this phone that I'm recording the video from, although I didn't buy the phone myself, but I always wanted it. I always looked at it it's always in the back of my mind. But I always gave it a cooling down period, because the other thing I remember my dad always saying, because at that time, all the way back then, we didn't really have smartphones, and when smartphones were about coming out, and my dad would say, don't buy the newest things, because new tech always takes time to adjust itself. And I remember one time I had no choice. I was in uni and I had to get a phone, and the only phones on the plan was those that are somewhat smartphones. It was still a black and white screen, and kind of tactile, but they were moving toward the smartphone, and they were essentially the latest technology. So I had to get it. And it's true, it was really wonky. It kept crashing, and I couldn't wait to get rid of it when the plan is over. So, example of my dad's advice ringing very true. And another example of me carrying out this lesson was actually this year. My favorite member of BTS is J-Hope, and he was on a world tour, and I saw that he was on a world tour, and I was watching all his live performances, and I'm like, wow, he's so good. It would be so awesome to see him in concert. I know it would be really worth it. But I thought, you know what, going to concert is so hectic and stressful and expensive, maybe it's not worth it. But the more I watch, I'm like, maybe I should consider. And then what happened was we found a mass in my uterus, and I wasn't sure whether I needed an operation. So what I told myself was, okay. So I went to the doctors, and then they said it's not big enough to need to operate, and also not big enough to have to go to the hospital and biopsy it. So she just gave me some treatment. I'm on metformin now, apparently inherited insulin resistance, hence causing PCOS and the mass. And so the doctor said to come back in a month to check if the mass has shrunk, stayed the same, or if it grew, then we'll need to think of next steps or be referred to a hospital. So I told myself, look, I really want to go for a straight-up concert, but I might need to spend money here on the clinic visits, my possible time for operations and all that. So I said, okay, I'll go on the treatment until 1 month. If the mass shrinks, then I'm going for the concert. Even then, I said, likely the tickets will be sold out. So if there are no tickets anywhere in Southeast Asia, I'll just take it as a sign that I'm not meant to go. So I went for my appointment a month later, and at first I was thinking, still concert tickets expensive. It might be hectic. I still have to travel because he didn't have a concert in Malaysia. So I either need to go to Singapore, Thailand, or Indonesia. Was it Indonesia? I think it was Indonesia. And I was really scratching my head. And I was like, you know what? I made a promise to myself. I did have the cooling down period. And I still really, really want to go. So I searched every site that was, I searched the Thailand website, sold out, Indonesia site was sold out. Then I went to the Singapore website and it said tickets still available for the second show on Sunday. I was like, really? And they don't show you where these tickets or these seats are. So I click into it and I'm like, where? And I click every single zone and it was like, no tickets, no tickets, no tickets. And I almost wanted to go and find someone who wants to sell off their tickets. Then my husband was like, no, please don't do that because it's pretty dangerous. You might get conned out of your money. I'm not experienced enough to know who is legit and who is not. So I was like, okay. And then after scouring the forums, I was like, okay, one more time back into the Singapore website. And then I finally clicked the section that had tickets. And then I turned to my husband, oh my gosh, there are tickets. Should I still go? He's like, you should go, otherwise you regret. So this is where my husband's approach kind of balances out my whole like don't spend on myself kind of approach. So I was thinking, I'll go, but I don't want to go alone. I imposed another cooling down criteria for myself. So I was like, wait, let me see if I can get one more ticket. And I could, and it was next to me. And so I quickly called my friend in Singapore. I was like, I can get tickets to J-Hope's concert. Do you want to go with me? And she said yes. And it was a great experience. And I feel it's a little bit more magical because I had that cooling down period and showing that this is really worth it. Did my research and knew that this is what I really, really, really wanted. And did it. On that note, it reminds me of watching ads with my dad again for fast food like KFC or McDonald's. And they will always make it look like really delicious. And he says again, no, that's all, movie magic and production quality. They don't actually taste good. And that actually helps me ignore a lot of advertisements. To be honest, I don't get drawn in by advertisements very easily. On that note, in spite of having this cooling down period before we buy things or consider ads with a critical mind, he was always very encouraging of me to be open to opportunities where I get to learn and experience something new, as long as it's in a safe environment. An example is I remember when because he was a trained engineer. He was an engineer by training, so sometimes he'll go around and fix the whatever he can around the house. So one time he was fixing a plug. I think I was maybe 10 or 9, and he was like, come Suen, come, kind of see and I'll teach you about the electrical plug, the earth plug. I don't recall much right now, but he explained how all the 3 points work, and he showed me how he was going to repair it. And I sat there watching. He even asked me to try. He's like, oh, see, you can check for electricity using that screwdriver and the electricity tester. So he let me try. And little did I know, I only learned all this when I was in school. In school, they only taught all this when we were 14 or 15 in the school books. And I was like, hey, my dad taught me that already. And on top of that, he'll teach me how to climb trees. So I was a bit of a tomboy as a kid, climbing trees, bicycle tricks, monkey bars. Those were the fun things, and I recall that all kind of. Also, some of the things he would say, just go and try. And I'm here, I'll guide you. I know how to do it. That kind of encouraged my attitude toward, taking up, trying something, as long as it's a safe environment or there is a way out of it. Which also reminds me of a time where he encouraged my older brothers, to smoke in front of him. He bought pack cigarettes, said like, look, these are cigarettes. I know your friends might influence you to do it, to smoke. But so I'm going to ask you to do it in front of me, and we're going to talk through the experience and why it's not healthy. And so my brothers smoked it and they cough, and I was there witnessing, and he goes like, see, this is why there's really no benefit of smoking. So if your friends ask you to do so, at least you have experience, and you can just say you don't like it. I thought that was quite eye-opening. Which all these little discussions or experiences in a safe space also reminds me of the many, many times he asked me to accompany him to watch horror movies either at home or in the cinema. And he will always say, see, if this were to actually happen to you, because it's not always a ghost or a supernatural danger, right? Sometimes it's literally someone trying to break into the house. So we would sit there and talk about, what would you do in this situation? See, you have to always think of possible situations coming up so you can plan ahead of time. And so when the thing actually happens, you would have a clearer mind and have options of what you want to do to keep yourself safe. And that's an example of, like, for me, an opportunity to watch horror, which actually most time I was a bit too young to watch, in a safe environment, and with my dad there guiding me through. He will also explain that that ghost is actually a prosthetic. How they make it, they use the rubber, they make the masks and things like that. So those were interesting times, and those are stories that I remember of the lessons my dad taught me. And I hope this has been a fun episode for you. And I don't have very clear memories of everything, so if there's anything you want to specifically ask me, please drop it in the comments, or any other stories you want to hear about, just let me know. Bye!